Good morning. It's 10 o'clock Monday morning. It's 10 degrees out there and quite heavy rain. And Ludo's hedge cutting. I don't think he has any choice. I think he's put it off because of the weather, and said that he'd come today, and the weather forecast changed, and we've got quite heavy rain and we've got storms. We've got storms due. I've said that for days, haven't I? We've not had a thunderstorm, but every day there's a thunderstorm on the horizon. Although yesterday there wasn't. Yesterday was a lovely day. So lovely that the world's flies population decided to come and sunbathe on the shutters out the front. Small flies. I think cluster. I looked up cluster flies. Cluster flies are big. These were small flies, and there were every time that front door opened, in they came. And Mark spent a lot of time going around with his fly swat, and we were out there with our friends. I don't know, going to look around the garden, and it was like, oh my god! Each shutter had about 100 flies on it, all basking in the sun. So I'm quite pleased about the rain today because there won't be any flies out there, and hopefully by the time the weather changes, they'll have all gone. So it's been a bit of a fly graveyard indoors. I can see a dead one on the table that I need to go and sort out. We had a lovely time, lovely afternoon. Um, Clelia made chocolate eclairs. They were really nice, although there's still an expectation from me that a chocolate eclair will have freshly piped cream in it, and that's not how the chocolate eclairs are served here. In France, they're served with a chocolate filling if it's a chocolate eclair, a coffee filling if it's a coffee eclair. And the filling, I'm not sure what the filling is. It's a thick, um, it's a thick custardy type thing. So I still miss that. I miss that. I sort of see a chocolate eclair and expect there to be cream in it, and there isn't. Very nice day. Really lovely to catch up. We realised that the last time we saw them was last November, and we ate with them. And I'm remembering that we ate that JP had cooked coq au vin. I don't like coq au vin, but he'd cooked coq au vin, and that's what we'd eaten with them. And they've talked about cooking a meal for us before Christmas, um, which will be really nice. And I feel okay going back there now for a meal because it's been a long time since we've hosted them here, and now I realise why. Um, when I got sick in 2016, I stopped hosting meals for people because it was just I couldn't do it. I was just exhausted, and so I stopped hosting. And up until then, I'd done 3-course meals. We'd had really lovely food. We would probably about 4 times a year we'd have people round for a meal. And I stopped because I just wasn't able to do it. And now I feel that I can't do a 3-course meal. And yesterday was a real push. I did. I made the cake in the morning. Then I did our dinner, which was a really simple dinner. Um, and then there's lots of walking backwards and forwards, sorting out the table, bringing stuff through for the table, all of that. And actually, I felt like I'd walked so far yesterday. It was too much. I was absolutely shattered at chicken closing up time. And I'd closed some of the chickens up earlier because we were all out wandering around the garden anyway. So I thought, well, I'll close them up. Half closed them up. They still needed the door closing. We were missing a gold Brahma. So we went down last night once it was dark with head torches on, looking for her, couldn't find her. It didn't look like there'd been any signs of a struggle, so it didn't look like she'd been taken by a predator. Um, so we decided, well, we'll see. And when I went down this morning to let them out, she's wandering around in the sheep shelter. So she'd obviously, I don't know where she'd got herself to last night, but she's fine. So I'm really pleased about that. So now they're not out completely. They have access to their coop with food because she needs food. She wouldn't have had any. Um, and they're not completely out because they're not really interested in being out much because of the weather. Whilst talking about food, somebody mentioned goat food. Um, it's quite natural for the chickens to stop laying for a certain part of the year. It's quite natural for them to stop laying when they're molting because they need all the nutrients that they're taking from their proper chicken food to help grow back their feathers. So I don't really feel that they need anything extra. I'm quite happy with how things are, and I like to feel that they're allowed to be have their natural cycle. I don't want to force them to be laying eggs when they're not up for laying eggs. They're only every chicken is born with the eggs they're going to lay for their lives. So if you some people use artificial light to improve egg laying, extend the egg laying period. If you do all of those various things, ultimately you only get the eggs that the chicken has for you. And there's an average amount of eggs that a chicken will lay per year. And I'm quite happy to go along with that. I'm quite happy knowing that I'll get the eggs I get, and if I don't get any eggs, then that's too bad. It's that time of year. Oh, here we go. If any of you were ever tired, you just need to come here and I can help you sleep by yawning at you. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to give them goat food. I'm quite happy with how things are and leave them to do their own thing. What else was I going to tell you? What else was I going to tell you? We've got somebody coming on Thursday to do a Devi for the kitchen. So we went down to the people that plumbed in our shower and sink unit upstairs in the bathroom. We went to them on Friday and looked at kitchens in their showroom. Came away with a catalogue, which is a really difficult catalogue to work out what's what. Worked our way through it eventually. It's a German. They're German kitchens, and you just choose which style you want. Not actually. I haven't chosen a style in terms of types of cabinet because we're quite restricted. It's just a small corner, but the style of facade. So we've chosen the style of facade. We've chosen the colour, which will hopefully be sage green because that kitchen was painted green earlier on in the year. So I think it'll be quite nice to have a change from the blue because everywhere's blue. So he's coming on Thursday to sort that out. Need to be really, really distinct about the sink because I want a much bigger, deeper in terms of going back on the worktop to the wall practically. Because the problems we have at the moment is our sink was an IKEA sink, I think, and it's a good sink, it's a good size. You can get your cooking trays into it and everything to wash up, but it doesn't go back against the wall and the tap doesn't come up through the sink. There's a hell of a lot of water damage at the back that we've been trying to remedy over the years with various adaptations, and it's just horrible. It's really nasty. So I want to make sure that the sink will protect everything from water dropping from the drainer. I've got a drainer, an overhead drainer, which works really well but goes beyond the sink. So I want a sink with a drainer attached so that it will drop onto the drainer, the water. So I'm going to need to be quite distinct about that because actually in the catalogue he gave us, there aren't any sinks in it. There's sinks actually in the example kitchens, but they're just sinks in the example kitchens. They're not sinks that are available. So yeah, I'm going to have to do that. We've got no telly. The telly box has packed up a couple of days ago, which isn't such an issue for me, but it is for Mark. It's an old FreeSat Humax box that they stopped making a long time ago. You can still buy them from specialist dealers, and there are some on Amazon. They're on Amazon UK and Amazon France. But if you go onto them to buy a new one or buy, yeah, they're not new in terms of technology. they won't send it to France, and it's not cheap, but they won't send it to France. So I did a bit of digging around and spoke to um, Gordon at, I can't remember, is it called French TV? Cross Channel TV, who we've used before here a couple of times to put satellite dishes up or whatever. Spoke to him over the weekend, and he told us what to look for, and I found something, and I've ordered it. So it won't be here till the end of the week. It might not even be here before Mark goes into hospital on Sunday, but he will have telly when he comes out, hopefully. So at the moment he's watching DVDs. He's got a series of DVDs that we ordered the other day for him that he's sort of saving for when he's back here convalescing. I don't know whether he'll break into those now he's got no telly. So yeah, that's not ideal. I think that's it really. I think that is it. I'm going to pause you. So honest, aren't I? I'm going to pause you. I don't pause you and not tell you I've paused you. I've remembered our friends that came, the mum and dad come, our friends come with their daughter. So mum and dad are in their 80s. The dad's in his 80s and he's got dementia. And when we saw him in November, which is a year ago now, that was the first time we'd seen him with dementia, and it's very sad. He's sort of, yeah, it was just very sad. And my mum had dementia, so I know what it's about. I know what it's like. It's just so difficult for the partner. It's so difficult for the people around them, trying to manage them and trying to help them. I'm not really sure how it is for the person themselves. I can recall mum at many times just not there. But my sense was that she wasn't distressed by that because she didn't know she wasn't there. There was a sense of that part of understanding this is going on for me has gone. So apparently, after a year on, it wasn't obvious, but Gail was saying that he can't see. Now that wasn't obvious to me that he couldn't see, so he's managing that well. And he obviously can't read. Well, mum couldn't read, and mum was an avid reader, and that's another sad thing. It's like you can't entertain yourself, and you can't read, or you pick up a book but you don't know what to do with it, or you're reading the same paragraph over and over because you don't remember it. Apparently they listen to audiobooks together, but by the next day he's forgotten what it is they're listening to, which is of course what you would expect. So I just feel really sad. It's so sad. I have some thoughts about dementia. I have two thoughts about dementia. One is that we're all living much longer than we used to. So back, let's say 150 years, just to pick out of the blue, back 150 years or so, we weren't living this long. We weren't living lives as long as this. So it's quite possible that we weren't seeing people with dementia because they'd already died. My other thoughts about it are that I know from way back when a friend of mine, whose name I won't mention, talked to me about some research that she'd been a party to into aspartame, so artificial sweetener, and that apparently is research that's been sat on because it's too explosive, and it will do over the industry that relies on people buying artificial sweetener. So typical of research that doesn't look good on things that we as consumers buy, so it gets sat on. But she saw some research that showed, I think it probably was on rats, that showed plaques in the brain caused by the aspartame. So my thoughts are, my mum was often dieting, often using dietary products, and that generation and more later generations were using artificial sweeteners, dietary products, all of that. There was such an emphasis on that from, um, I suppose, from the 70s onwards. And my hypothesis is, which could be completely wrong, is that much of the dementia that we're seeing now has been caused by dietary factors. Now, I don't know that. It's just my hypothesis, and I may be completely wrong. But I just think it's really, really sad when you see people trying to cope with someone with dementia, and the person that you fell in love with, the person that you've spent your life with, living with, doing stuff with, working with, isn't there any longer and is just a shell that you are managing. I know last year they talked about he'd taken his car keys and gone off in the car and got lost. And I think they were called by the gendarmes because he'd been found by the gendarmes and was brought back. I think that's what happened. Apparently since then, because I asked yesterday, apparently since then he's not asked for car keys again, not looked for car keys again, doesn't know that he was a driver. So I mean that's a relief in some ways, isn't it? It's a relief. My mum was driving for a long time. I don't know whether she was driving when she had dementia, but she had been a good driver. But in later years, I don't think she was. And there's a bit of a joke. Viv says that I think I think probably after Mum and Dad had been moved from home and put into a nursing home, I think Viv was driving around in Mum's old car for a while. People said to her when they saw that it was her driving that they thought it was Mum driving, and that they'd got used to, because it was a narrow, they lived in the country and there were narrow roads with banks, and people used to see Mum coming and climb up onto the bank to avoid the car. It's scary, isn't it? So they were still doing that when it was Viv driving because they thought it was Mum. Anyway, so that's that. So I'm not doing a lot. I've had a good sleep, but I'm going to have a day of not doing a lot because it really did me in yesterday. Was looking for something in the freezer yesterday, and I got 3 half large loaves of sourdough. I'll get one of those out for tonight, and then I'll start another process tomorrow. I've sussed that, I think. When you reach the final piece, which is the shaping and then putting it to prove in the fridge overnight, I'd been doing that in the fridge overnight for sort of 8 hours. I left it the other day. I left it for 12 hours or a bit longer. I got a much better result out of the oven. So I think that it really needs, the guy that I watch, Food Geek, leaves his, I think, for 18 hours. I mean, you can leave it for days in the fridge on that long proof. But I think he leaves his for 18 hours. I think I left mine for 18 hours and I got it didn't look promising when it came out of the fridge, because it stuck a little bit to the proving basket around the top edge. So it didn't look promising, and I thought, I cooked it in the pot, the casserole pot, and I'd reduced my quantities a bit because I felt that what I was making was too big. So I'd cut down the quantities from 700 grams of flour to 600 grams. What I got from the pot looked the same size as the 700 gram flour breads I'd been making, so it did really well. So I'm really pleased about that. So I will make sure that I always do a long in the fridge proof. So yeah, I'll do some more bread tomorrow, but I won't do it today. I'm just going to sit for a bit longer, and I don't know what I'm doing, some sort of pasta for lunch, but I haven't got my head around that yet. I'll chuck some stuff together. I like chucking stuff together and coming up with something. So have a good week. Have a good Monday, and I'll see you again when I see you.